Hello there, and welcome back to Force Perspectives. Hey, guess what? This is episode 66 of Force Perspectives, technically. And we're about to execute an Order 66 of our own on Star Wars Celebration Japan. I am your host, Michael Cohen, and not joining me as always is Joe Hogan because he's on an airplane on his way to Japan. As we record this, he is, I don't know if he's actually physically on an airplane right now, but he is in transit. I do know that because I've been talking to him. So he may be in the middle of a layover at the moment, I think. But he's on his way, and so I had to I had to call in the pinch hitter, and I was like, who do I want to gripe about Star Wars Celebration with? And the first name that came to mind was Missy. So welcome back to the show. You've been on Force Perspectives before, right? I'm pretty
I
sure you have.
I don't know. I think so, but I
I
don't.
think so.
I can't. It all runs together. Everything comes back to Star Wars. So
This is the thing is that the only people listening to this podcast are the ones who listen to the other podcasts. They know you from What the Force. They know you from Perfect 10. They know you from all over the place and all of your stuff online and your incredible insights and all of that. So,
and raucous squealing. And for the
yes.
record, for those of you who are attending Celebration, I am totally happy and not at all jealous.
No, this yeah. None of the negative feelings fueling this episode are coming out of jealousy or spite.
Of
Not
course
at all,
not.
not at all,
That
not
would
at
be
all, not at
silly.
all. What is the most annoying thing about Star Wars Celebration for me?
Mm.
We'll just start right there. Is that every single Star Wars Celebration, whether I have planned to attend or not, I get an email from Lucasfilm, and this is a very Mike centric white person privilege problem. I because of the life that I am able to live, I get an email from Lucasfilm saying, are you like you're attending, tell us what you want to do. Like, what panels do you
Ugh.
want to go to, what things? And it's just like, well, I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
And like last time it was in Japan, I got the same thing. The Europe, I got the same thing.
Hmm.
Chicago, um and even with Anaheim, a few years back, they were gonna pay my airfare to get there.
Oh wow. Hmm.
I had already, because I was going with my family, so we had already booked our flights, we had already booked our hotel.
Hmm.
But yeah, I had a room, I had all of
Mm.
these, like, at the hotel that was attached to the convention center, which is all stuff that, like, it's a funny thing because I think that a lot of the podcasters, a lot of the people in the influencer podcaster, whatever that space, they don't talk about this stuff very often. It's almost like this like guarded thing, like this secret, and nobody listens to this podcast, so it really doesn't matter. But I have always felt with that stuff that I want to be as transparent as possible, because I like,
Hmm.
if Lucasfilm's going to give me that access, Disney is going to give me that access, it obviously is going to alter my opinion. There's
Of
no,
course.
it's not there. I don't even try and go like I'm gonna do my best to not be biased. No, I am biased. Like
Hmm.
I am biased towards it, because, like, when they do that, that's awesome. And it's
Yeah.
great to be treated that way. Like, it feels very nice. And so that is all a positive towards my experience with Star Wars as a whole.
Yeah.
But when I'm not going to be at the convention and they send me the email, it's always this thing of like, oh
Yeah.
man, like,
Twisting the knife a little bit,
yeah, yeah.
like.
Because I'd really love to be on my way to Japan as well,
I know.
but
Yep.
but we are those that are left behind. We've got power
Yeah.
converters to pick up at Tashi Station, and
I know, right? Yeah.
vaporators to maintain on the South Ridge.
Well,
So,
and
like,
in my case, I gotta worry that if I did go, trying to get back into the US, that I might
oh
get,
gosh,
withheld for my opinions about the empire,
oh
you
my
know.
gosh, yeah, I well, I mean, like, everything, it just gestures, to the everything. It's all just utter chaos at the moment. And I would love it. I would love it if Star Wars could be a wonderful place of respite from that. But we've got
That would be
Andor
great.
season 2 coming up, so that won't be
No.
the case. That won't be the case. It will maybe galvanize some of us to get off our butts and do a little bit of collective action. But I don't. I just want to draw silly cartoons and watch Star
I
Wars
know.
and play
We
video
want the
games. You know?
escapism. We
Yeah.
really, truly do. And I think,
Yeah.
okay, I mean, not to be too literal about that, but I think that what we're seeing here is there is no escape.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, like,
I saw a great TikTok the other day of somebody being like, we're about to go into a Great Depression. It's not fair. We didn't even get to have our Roaring 20s.
so
and
true.
and it's like that is somewhat true because obviously the 2020s have been marred with, we started with COVID and Black Lives Matter and a lot of chaos, a lot of unrest, a lot of like disruption, and it's only kind of gotten worse since then. But but the 2 decades before that, of like the actually even the three, like the 90s, the early 2000s, and then the 2010s, like really, if you look at the 90s and the 2000s, boy oh boy did we have it good,
I
and we
know.
complained about a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. And obviously, in the early 2000s you've got 9/11, and that is
Yeah.
really like the beginning of all of this. But I like, yeah, I mean, like
Well,
we
there
we
was a period after, the fall of the Soviet Union where I
Mhm.
would say there was a peaceful and prosperous world order. Now, that's a gross generalization. Obviously,
Yes.
that was not true for all people in all places.
Yeah.
But as a generalization, what most people, in certain parts of the world are accustomed to would be that. And that's now, rapidly collapsing, or has been, for the last few years. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's a bit of a shock to the system. And to bring it back to Star Wars, I don't think any of us kind of were prepared to live that particular
Oh my gosh.
fall of the Republic. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Joe and I have said it a couple of times on the show in recent episodes. The the one of the bright spots of all of this chaos is the ability, as a Star Wars fan who's been a fan of the Phantom Menace since 1999, is the
yep.
ability to look people straight in the face and go, "Not so silly now, is it?"
Yep, yep.
Right? You were distracted by that silly frog man,
hmm
the orange guy with the big floppy ears, but the rest of that movie is incredibly intelligent and prescient, isn't it? Like it's just
Yeah.
so incredible. Like all these politics are so boring. Yeah, they are. They are. They're
Trade
less.
disputes, man.
They're a lot less boring when you're actually living them, though, aren't they? They're a lot more
Uh
interesting now at this point. It's such a funny, like, it just uh, it does. I don't think that it retroactively makes the movies better. I think that the movies have always been as good as they've been. People were just a little bit too you know uh, uh blinded by their nostalgia for the original trilogy to see them for what they were.
mhm.
But what it's just a matter of, I don't know. It's George finally getting recognition, because people have said for years, for decades now, that those movies are poorly written, that he's a
Mhm.
bad writer. And it's like, listen, he's not great at everything. He is very bad with actors.
Mhm.
He shouldn't have directed those movies. But if
Right.
you criticize the writing of those films from like the story perspective, you don't know what you're talking about, because just because they're not 3 act structures, just because they don't follow the exact same formula that the original trilogy followed, which is like this thing that he really ended up popularizing and turning into the way that Americans make movies.
Mhm.
And then he comes along and he goes like, what do you expect? The dude is an auteur. he's
Yeah.
he's a he's an artist. And the second that you tell him that he defined what a blockbuster movie is, when
Mhm.
he comes back 20 years later, he's going to go, well, then let me redefine it.
Well, and
Like
he's an
that's his
exceptional
deal.
he's an exceptional observer. I think this is what
Mm,
sets George apart from not only just other directors and creators in general, but then specifically I would say, some of the Star Wars creators that have come after him and that
mhm.
lean quite heavily on what he created is he's just an exceptional observer of
Yeah.
humanity, and he understands, and he worked hard to understand it, hence all of his conversations with Joseph Campbell and everything. Like he wanted to understand people and
Mhm.
systems and what makes them tick, and so he told a story about all of that, and that's why it continues to ring true today and always will. And what's so funny is that you look at Star Wars since then, and you can see a pretty clear delineation between the creators who have followed in his footsteps by also being observers, like Ryan Johnson and Leslie Headland and others, where they clearly want to understand
Yeah.
people, and Tony Gilroy. But then you also have the ones where just like they're so caught up in the aesthetics and the nostalgia of Star Wars that you can tell they've given very little thought to what any of it actually means.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
So yeah.
Before
Mhm.
before we get too much further in, I just have to do. This is new for us. So I guess this is the first public podcast where I'm announcing it, because we talked about it on Off the Record, but that's
Mhm.
Patreon exclusive. So this is like the first formal announcement to the general audience that I restructured the Patreon. So I brought back the $1 tier. The $5 tier is still there, which is what we've had for the last year and a bit. And I've also brought back the $10 tier. So I all of the exclusive content moving forward is available on the $1 tier. And I did that in part because of all of the chaos, because I know that everybody's budgets are being stretched very thin by the price of eggs and whatnot. I was like, I really, if people are going to support us, I need to bring back the $1 tier. It's asking for $5 a month for our podcast is a lot to ask for. So I brought back the $1 tier, and everybody can get everything there. If you are at the $5 tier, you get access not only to all of the exclusive stuff like that will come out in the future, but you have access to like the full archive. And the full archive is going to mean something very different in a little bit, but I just have to like get other stuff in order first before I can do that. So that $5 will be worth much more in the future if you're somebody who wants to go back and listen to old podcasts. But that option will be there at the $5 tier. And then at the $10 tier, you get all that stuff, but then you also get the podcast shout out as a Patreon producer. So this is the part where I now have to do the Patreon producer shout outs to Curtis, Brian, Mark, and Sherston. And I thank you guys so much for supporting us on Patreon. If anybody else wants to go support us on Patreon, patreon.com/thunderquack. I I know that every podcast now, I mean, we've been doing this for 15 years, no, 10 years, on Patreon. Um, but everybody now is asking everybody for, go to my Patreon, go to my Patreon, go to my Patreon. But we were doing it first, so I think that means that we should get first dibs. But also, you don't have to. It's one of those things. Anybody who can support, we appreciate the support. If you are not in a position to support, then continue to enjoy the podcast for free. And you can help us out by just sharing it with friends. Just send it to somebody. Just tell somebody to listen to the podcast, and that is as helpful as a one, $5 or $10 a month contribution. But the other tip that I always give this is to do the annual. If you do the annual, you save 10%. So it like, to me, I do have a joke, and there will be a post on the Instagram or whatever at some point of I a year subscription to Thunderquack on Patreon is now cheaper than a carton of eggs. I and that is insane. It's insane. Not cheaper than a Canadian carton of eggs, to be clear. We're talking about American eggs, but because eggs up here are still fairly reasonable. But yeah, like if you do the annual subscription, you'll save a few bucks. And so yeah, that is my recommendation to everybody. But patreon.com/thunderquack. Thank you to everybody who supports us. And now we'll get back to grousing about Star Wars Celebration and Lucasfilm. But especially thank you to our Patreon producers, to those 4 folks who are supporting us at that level. And if you've been around for long enough, it's like those names are all actually like, you know who those people are. You've probably like interacted with them on the Discord or whatever. But yeah, we're gonna talk about Star Wars Celebration. And I'm gonna bring up the schedule here. And we're gonna take a look at. I'm not really concerned about the stuff that's gonna happen on like the collector's stage or the fan stage or any of those other ones, right? Like
Mm.
there's all sorts of awesome content at Star Wars Celebration. The main panels are not the reason to go. I think like because the main panels you're gonna hear about everything anyways on
Sure.
from all of the news outlets and stuff. If you are a person who is going to go to a Star Wars Celebration in the future, I cannot recommend highly enough going and checking out the weirdest panel you can find on the schedule. Like just go and like somebody has some weird super niche topic that they are going to go on and on for an hour on stage, and they've been like preparing for it, and those panels are the best. I will also recommend, if you're gonna be at Star Wars Celebration Japan, that Marie Claire has a What the Force panel. I That's going to be about Ahsoka. So I think it's on the Saturday. I don't know when it is off the top of my head. Well, I'll circle back to that, but definitely go check that out if you are listening to this podcast and you're going to be in Japan.
Yep. It'd be Ahsoka in the Underworld with the Joseph Campbell Foundation. So definitely check it out.
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It will be incredible. It will be one of the
Mm-hmm.
best panels at Star Wars Celebration. I expect that it'll be well attended, but I hope that it's just a packed room. I hope that people are fighting to get in, because
Nice.
they know how awesome it's gonna be. But yeah, like that's the reason to go to Celebration, is to connect with the awesome podcasters and Star Wars fans that have like these weird niche interests in Star Wars that they just want to share with the world. That's what the fandom's about. But one of the other things that Star Wars Celebration tends to be about is, um it's PR. It's
Mm-hmm.
one long extended press conference for Star Wars. And for the last few, there has been an opening ceremony that includes, I think of the last one they called it, or the last couple they called it, a Lucasfilm showcase, in which they're like, oh, look at these sneak peeks at all of these different things. Some stuff just for people in the room, other things for the entire world to see, and all
Mm-hmm.
of that. But in any case, like, trotting everybody out on stage, and this is where they make announcements like Daisy Ridley's coming back to make a movie, or here's Hayden and Ewan to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi and stuff like that, right?
Right.
um there is not a panel like that at Star Wars Celebration this year.
Mm-hmm. Very
the
interesting.
the lineup is as follows. So Friday, I each day you've got 3 big panels on the celebration stage. So Friday is The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is about the movie, the film, The Mandalorian and Grogu. Lights and Magic, a glimpse into the magic of season. Sorry, Light and Magic, a glimpse into the magic of season 2. That is the Industrial Light and Magic documentary, and there's a season 2 coming, which is awesome. I'm excited about that. I'm excited as hell about that because Light and Magic was phenomenal. It was so good. Lucasfilm Animation's 20th anniversary is the final panel on Friday. I do expect to get something at that. It's interesting that last week they dropped the news that we're getting Tales from the Underworld, which is going to be about Cad Bane and Asajj Ventress as our two focal characters on that. So 3 short episodes for each of them. Which is exciting, and I can't wait to talk about that on Rebel Cells with Kyle and Joe. But we know that they are also working on something else. That there's a series that they staffed up for it, and it's been in
Animated or
production.
live action?
Animated.
Okay.
So Bad Batch came to an end, and
Mhm.
I don't know that there's much debate. I think that people just like believed Lucasfilm and the creators of that show when they said that they were like that they planned for it to be 3 seasons. If you watch that 3rd season, it's very hard to believe that, but cuz it really just ends. It's just kind of done, and they're like, "Hey, you remember all those threads? No, you don't. No, you don't.
What
You don't.
threads?
You don't remember any of those threads. Tech is dead. He is not coming back. He's certainly not the leader of those Bad Batch clones at the end
Mm,
of the season. That's definitely not what that was supposed to be. Just pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
yep.
Anyway, so Bad Batch was abruptly canceled in the 3rd season in order for them to pivot and go in a different direction because Bad Batch was not doing anything for them in the larger sphere, right? Great for Star Wars fans. We were all loving it. Season 1 and 2 are
Mhm.
incredible seasons of television. Season 2 especially has some of the best episodes that Lucasfilm Animation has done across all of their shows.
Mhm.
Just some really, really top tier stuff. Incredible writing, incredible performances, incredible animation. But it wasn't moving the needle enough in like the global market, so they
Mhm.
cut it off, and they've obviously pivoted into a different direction. We will find out at this panel, I guarantee that. But
Yeah. Well,
um
I mean, and this is gonna go into like, when we talk about kind of what's on their docket and then what
mhm,
is notably not.
yeah,
I think that what we're starting to see is the end result of so much of their lineup being, and I'm sorry, I know this is going to piss people off, but so much of their lineup being Dave Filoni's vanity projects.
yep,
Like when you do that and when you double down on that,
yep,
you eventually narrow it to only the Dave Filoni fans and no one else.
yep,
And so for a franchise the size of Star Wars, and obviously that's always looking for new fans, you need more than just those people.
mhm, yeah,
So I think it's interesting that here he is in charge of their programming, and to your point, it doesn't look like they're announcing much new.
yep, yeah. So Saturday is Andor, a Star Wars story, at which point they'll be obviously talking a great deal about season 2 of Andor. This is April 19th, so this is like days away from the rest of us getting to see the first 3 episodes of Andor
Mhm.
season 2. I guarantee that the people at Star Wars Celebration who attend that panel will get tickets to come back that night and watch all 3 episodes.
Yep.
I guarantee it. So we are going to hear a lot about it. Now, what they did at Celebration the last time that I was there with the Obi-Wan Kenobi premiere is that they ended up dropping those episodes the next day for
Right.
everybody. So
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if Saturday we get these episodes because you have to remember that Japan is basically a day ahead, right?
Right.
They're
Mhm.
it is already Friday. Well, maybe it's not already Friday just yet. It's at least Thursday night right now
Mhm.
as we record this in Japan. I can't remember exactly how many hours ahead they are, but you cross that date line into the next day. So Saturday, it will, when people are at these panels, we'll all be asleep.
Yeah.
But by the time that we wake up on Saturday morning, I am fairly confident in saying that they'll be like, yeah, here you go. Here's the first 3 episodes early.
Yeah.
And we'll be watching them that weekend.
Mhm.
Because once it hits with everybody at Celebration, then we're all gonna hear about everything.
Yeah, and
There's
then
no
you
way
have
to protect
spoilers
it.
left, right, and center. So you
Yeah,
absolutely have to,
yeah.
either allow everyone to be spoiled or you drop them early. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Mhm.
I don't think that they have as much to worry about with Andor season 2 as they did with Obi-Wan, because with Obi-Wan it was that first episode reveal of Leia, right? Like
Yes.
that was a
Yes.
massive secret that they managed to keep
Yeah.
throughout that entire production and throughout the entire like press junket of that
Mhm.
of like the global tour that they did leading up to Celebration.
Yep.
They managed to keep that a secret, which is wild. But I don't think that we're gonna get something quite that big in Andor. But I could be wrong. I don't know. We'll see. The second panel that day is Ahsoka. I so that will be not much of anything. They'll talk a lot about season 2. It will probably mostly be a retrospective on season 1 and on the character
Mhm.
in general, because
Yep.
they have not even started filming season 2 yet.
Yeah,
So there's
right.
nothing to show us. Um
Exactly. I'm like, so
yep.
I'm just confused, like, that we're gonna expend time on something that doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Like,
Um
okay.
Now this next panel is a really interesting one to me because it's on the Celebration stage. I'm not sure why. It seems an awful lot like there was something that probably should have been in this spot and isn't. And that they have pivoted, and that's why they're screening Siege of Mandalore on the
Hmm.
Celebration stage at 3:30 on Saturday.
Hmm.
That's gonna be the what, it's 4 episodes, I think, with Ahsoka
Mm.
and Bo-Katan and Darth Maul and all of that.
Mhm.
I mean, like, listen, if I was at Star Wars Celebration and I did not have anything conflicting with that,
Yeah,
I
you'd
would want to
go
be at
because
that,
it's
because
fun.
yeah,
Sure.
like a on the Celebration stage, like a big screen, massive
Yeah.
audience screening of the Siege of Mandalore, some of the best episodes of the Clone Wars. Absolutely sounds like a great time. I don't understand why it's the Saturday afternoon panel.
Yeah, it's
This
a very odd choice.
yeah. Because really, like, I think what that would have been is that Ahsoka would have been at 3:30, with them being like, we don't really have anything to show you, but we'll talk about season 2 and what we're gonna, some of the places that we might go. Andor would have been at 10, or sorry, at 1, and the 10 a.m. on Saturday should have been the new trilogy. Like that's like
Mhm.
that is when they would have had that panel, and it would have been pitched to us initially. Like, it would be on the schedule as the Ray movie, but we should have had an opening ceremony where they announced that it's not just the Ray movie, that it's like 10, 11, 12, right? Because we
Right.
all but we all but know that, like, that is all but confirmed by Disney and Lucasfilm, right?
Mhm.
Like they are the only ones not saying that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it has also been radio silence for the last probably 3 months. I
Well, they have really backed themselves into a corner. Like, I mean, let's
Yeah,
just, like, real quick look at the last, let's say, decade, right?
yeah,
Since the release of Force Awakens. So if you look at the last decade, what has happened? They released the sequel trilogy, which just, even though it experienced a lot of commercial success, culturally it was kind of a mess. You had a
yeah,
lot of reactionary backlash to not just the casting in Force Awakens, but then also to the direction that Ryan tried to take Last Jedi, and then obviously the utterly failed course correction that was just horrible, that was The Rise of Skywalker. So there's all of that. There's the fact that, yeah, Rogue One did well, but Solo did not live up to Disney's expectations, so didn't end up going that direction. We never got a follow up, as not only for Han, but also we didn't get anything for Kira. We didn't get anything for a young Lando. So there were all these kind of openings for new stories, and we didn't get them. And then you have everything else since then. Mando started strong and then has kind of sort of petered off, which is why they're going to wrap it up with a movie. And then you've got Kenobi. I know there's discussion about a season 2, but it's still unclear whether that's actually happening. Again, I don't think that met their expectations
Yeah.
either. They canceled Acolyte. What they have done is they have bowed to the most reactionary voices in fandom over and over. They have leaned really hard, like I said, into Dave Filoni's personal projects, which can be good. I'm not saying they can't. It's just that it is diminishing returns. You're really only going to get the people that are all in on that vision for Star Wars.
Yeah.
So they got that. They keep announcing stuff and then canceling it. So that's another thing, is they've taught the audience not to trust them, because every time they announce something, then they cancel it. So like we as far as we know, we're never getting the Ryan movies. We're never, there were all these other ones they had planned that have been canceled. Do you remember that timeline a couple years ago that they had
Yep.
of like all of the projects that were coming, and like none of those are happening now?
I mean, like there was an animated project that was supposed to be one
Yeah.
of the ones that was like coming imminently. That was the
Yeah.
Star Wars Droid Tales or whatever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
about
I remember
C-3PO and
that.
R2-D2, and it
Right.
just they never canceled it. They
That's the thing.
never
Some of these things
anything.
disappear and they never say a word
They
about it.
just
So
stopped talking about it.
yeah,
Like,
and then you have the Ray movie, which, as far as we know, keeps changing writers and stuff like. So all of this to say, they have really backed themselves into a corner. They haven't committed to anything, and I think it's now left, there's a lack of trust on the part of the audience, and there's a lack of interest. Like, a lot of us have kind of like, frankly, moved on to other franchises because Star Wars is kind of like, and I hate to say that as like a massive Star Wars fan. And of course, I'm still enjoying it. I'm still excited for Andor. I'm still excited. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it and I'm still going to consume it. But the general audience, I think, is sort of like lost interest, and they're not doing anything to reignite that interest based on what we're seeing at Celebration.
yeah, yeah. When I talk to like general audience people about Star Wars, when the subject comes up that I host a Star Wars podcast or I'm a massive Star Wars fan, and I start talking to people about it, the reactions that I get are not enthusiastic. They are not
Yep.
excited. It is
Yep.
usually something along the lines of like, "Oh yeah, I really like that Andor show. Are they doing more of that? How about like
Mm-hmm.
Rogue One's my favorite?" And it's like when you
Mm-hmm.
start saying that, so when I start hearing that stuff, it's like, okay, so you don't really like Star Wars. That's cool.
Well,
I
no, it's fine.
like
They
those are
haven't.
good things, but
Yeah.
but if you're like if you are one of the people that is like all I care about, the only good thing that they've done is Rogue One and Andor, then like what you're doing is you're signaling to me that like, okay, so you're not in this for like the space fantasy. You would rather have a Blade Runner show. You would
But I
rather
do
have
think that's kind
a
of, I
bunch of
do
these
think
other
it's a
things.
judgment on how Lucasfilm has handled everything else, though. I
For
really
sure,
truly do.
yes.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that there's no good reason that that Rogue One and Andor are actually the most popular, and I don't think it's purely just, like you said, sort of these reactionary interests. I do think that to a great extent, it's just they really haven't hit on that broad appeal
Yeah.
that the Lucas movies had,
So
right? They haven't.
the other reaction that I get though, from the people that don't say the Rogue One thing, the
Yeah.
other reaction I get is, yeah, I really liked Acolyte. Why aren't they making more of that?
Yep. Yep.
Everybody knows that they're not making a season 2. It's like
Yeah.
it was massively publicized that the show
Yeah.
was canceled.
Yeah.
And yet the majority of people that I talked to in the last year since Acolyte finished,
Hmm.
right? The majority of people that I talk to about Star Wars, one of the first things that they say to me is something along the lines of like, it's so funny because like they'll be gauging my interest.
Yeah.
I feel them like dip the toe in
Right.
because they don't know how I'm going to talk about Acolyte. Right.
Hmm.
And so they'll
Hmm.
say something of like, yeah, I didn't think Acolyte was as bad as everybody said.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then I will counter them with like, no one says it's bad.
Yeah.
10 people on the internet cried about it.
Yeah.
and they were all alt-right mouthpieces. And so Lucasfilm and Disney got scared and canceled the show. It's not even just that they got scared, they did it because it made the stock number go up for a week, right? Like that's why they
Ugh,
canceled it.
which is
Like
so gross and stupid.
but that's what, and I have been blowing this horn, sounding this alarm for the last 12 months at this point. That is what Hollywood has become. They
Yep.
don't make movies anymore. They don't make television shows anymore. They announce things. They make press releases. The
Yep.
primary output of executives in Hollywood is press releases for shareholders. It
Yep.
is not for us. These conversations are not meant for us. Our reactions to them are only metrics to be measured in order
Yep.
to determine how much the number goes up.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter, it does not matter if we react positively or we react negatively. the
Hmm.
the loudness of the
Line go up.
reaction makes the line go up,
Exactly. Yeah. And
and
you know
that's what
what?
it's become. That's the game that it's
Yeah.
turned into.
And the thing is that, like, listen, the way that I prefer to consume Star Wars is on a screen. Okay, I like the movies and TV shows.
Yeah,
That's how I like experiencing Star Wars, is as visual media. That said, the only place I'm seeing sort of, the storytelling and the more artistic approach to, to the tales is in publishing. I mean, they even
yeah.
just today they just announced a couple of new books. There's one in particular, and I'm already forgetting what it's called, but it's like looks incredible. It's got Vader, but like his mask looks particularly skeletal, even more so than usual. It looks really rad, but that kind of stuff looks like fun. And I know that a lot of people really loved the what is it, Reign of Fear? I think the one that just came out. Um, so there's I think the publishing is kind of which is funny because it's a much 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 smaller audience, but I feel like they're sort of carrying the flag for the
Yeah.
storytelling. Like obviously a lot of to the extent that there's going to be any other acolyte stories, they're all happening in the books and whatnot. So that to me is where it's happening. But again, that's not going to get you line go up.
No, that's
So
and that's the thing, and that's why it's able to happen there, is
yeah,
because those, when they announce a book, it doesn't affect the stock.
no, no.
And so
Hmm.
the publishers and the story team that focuses on Lucasfilm Publishing and on Star Wars publishing, they're left alone
Yep.
because it has nothing to do with any of the other stuff, right? But when they announce a TV show, when they announce a new thing for a streaming platform,
Hmm.
it's massive, right?
Yep.
And so yeah, like it the I think what it comes down to, we'll just finish out. I'll just read off the Sunday lineup real quick because it's just first look at Star Wars Visions Volume 3, which is
Oh,
going to
now
be
that I will
fantastic.
love.
I mean,
That I will love.
Visions Volume 3 is going to be great. Just
Yeah.
like the last two seasons of Visions were. And it's
Mhm.
not that the content that we're talking about, like these things that they're making, aren't going to be good. Like
Yeah.
Andor's going to be good. Ahsoka's going to be
Yep.
good. Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be fine. I it's going to exist. But
Sorry. That's so
yeah,
funny.
like no, I mean, like, it is a joke. I am being comedic, but I do really feel that that movie is going to be so, to quote, or not to quote, but to use the parlance of the time, it is going to be so mid. It's not even going to be funny.
It
Like, it's
really
going to
is.
be such a mediocre waste of our time. But
I
anyways,
know.
we'll
I
circle
know.
back to that.
Yep.
Visions is going to be great.
Mhm.
I and then the afternoon, the early afternoon panel is the heroic sidekicks of Star Wars. This is normal Sunday fare. Like, this is normal
Yeah,
last day of
sure.
celebration stuff.
Yeah, people are starting to
Um,
leave early and
yeah.
like, yeah. Mhm.
And then the closing ceremony. Now, in the closing ceremony description, although take this for what it is, they always say this, that you won't want to miss it. You
Mhm.
don't want to miss this one. If
Right.
they save something for the closing ceremony, that will be the weirdest decision that they've made out
Yeah,
of all of
really.
this. So I if you go back and you listen to previous episodes, you'll hear me being like, and this was all before the schedule was released, obviously. I was like very bullish on this stuff. Like, I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, they're gonna come out, they're gonna tell us about 10, 11, 12, they're going to bring
Yep,
out
yep.
Daisy, and then she's going to bring out John, and then John's going to bring out Oscar, because
Yeah.
Oscar is going to be at Star Wars Celebration in Japan.
But he's
Now,
not now,
he
right? Didn't he
canceled.
pull out? Yeah.
He canceled. He
Mhm.
would not, they said that it was a scheduling thing, that like a
I mean, they
production
always do.
thing.
Yeah.
He would not have pulled out if they were going to talk about 10, 11,
Yep.
12. 10,
Yep.
11, 12 have been put on the back burner. Those movies aren't happening anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
This Rey movie is in limbo. It's probably
It's in
not happening
development hell
anymore.
right now. It really is. Like,
And the development hell is not that they are not right, like, because this is one of those things where people will be like, oh well, then clearly it's a a troubled production, it
not
wasn't going to be good,
necessarily.
right? No,
Yeah.
what it is that it's very simple. Actually, it's very, very simple. Disney and Lucasfilm were plugging along on a path, and then the wind started to change. And in about September of last year, they stopped talking about a lot of stuff, not just Star
Mhm.
Wars. Disney as a whole stopped talking about a lot of stuff.
Yep.
And they could see the way that things were going to go, the way that it was going to break. And
Yep.
they were right to be cautious, because the world that we live in now, post November of last year, of 2024, is not it's not going to be a comfortable world for the type of content they were planning to make.
But
I
it does make me angry, right? Because,
Oh,
like, I mean, I guess like it's not fair to expect bravery from corporations, but it still
yeah,
makes me go, like, they have so much influence and
yeah,
power and
yeah.
money. Like their potential for what they could do is, I'm okay. I'm gonna pull this back real quick. All right. So I grew up in Hershey, Pennsylvania. All right. So, as in the Chocolate Town,
Mhm,
USA. And one of the things you learn when you grow up there is all about the founder, Milton Hershey. And during the Great Depression, because he had made all of this wealth on his chocolate business, he decided that instead of contracting and laying everyone off and all this other stuff and running a real tight ship, that he would expand and literally create work for people. So he
mhm,
created all of these jobs. He had them build a theater in the town. He had them build a library and a school and all this other stuff. And so he brought in all of these architects and everything from all over the world. And, he started an orphanage, which eventually became the Milton Hershey School, which is today is, this incredible school, which is supported by the trust and all this other stuff. Point being that, like, he invested his own money and his company's money in supporting people, providing jobs, and just doing like community support basically.
mhm.
And to this day is revered for that. And so what irritates me is looking at a company the size of Disney, with the resources they have, with just everything that they could do, the influence that they could wield, and to see them react not in solidarity, not with any kind of community support, but to retreat, to silence themselves, to I just think it's so disappointing. And I know it's because, to your point, line go up. It's all about shareholder
Mhm,
value. That's the only
mhm.
thing that matters. But it's sad. It's sad. I wish it was different, and I wish they were willing to fight, but that's not what they do.
The CEOs and executives have a legal obligation to the shareholders, in order, like that's the way that it's structured. That is the way that the system works. So there's a component at play there where their hands are kind of tied to a certain degree. Now, it's very easy to then make the argument, as a CEO, as an executive, as somebody in power in these companies, that what the decisions that we're going to make right now are decisions that are for the long-term benefit, not just of our
Hmm.
shareholders, but of everybody, right? And like what will be good for everybody in the long term is going to end up being good for the shareholders, right? And that is, to me, actually not just from like a moral standpoint, but also an economic standpoint, that is actually the right course. Because these short-sighted moves, are all fueled by uh, like mid 80s economic ideologies that are the reason we are in the situations that we're in today, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like a lot of that ideology, a lot of those ways of thinking about economics and about business have been baked into post-secondary education, particularly the Masters of Business Administration programs, which
Mm-hmm.
I refer to the MBA as the major bullshit artist
Oh my
degree.
gosh, so
um
true.
like that is what that stands for, because when you do a Masters of Business Administration, you do crash courses in everything that has to do with business, but
Yep.
you do not stay on any topic for long enough to
Yep.
develop any kind of mastery whatsoever.
Right.
So you have thousands, maybe millions of people who were fed the line that we were all fed as a generation, that
Mm-hmm.
go to post-secondary, get a good education, start your job, get a career, like and you'll have a career and you'll have a future and blah blah blah. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people that didn't really have anywhere else to go, they didn't have a passion that they were following, their passion was money.
Yep.
They went a couple of ways. They either went into medicine, even though they don't like it, but they just want the money. So there's a lot of people, dentists and like chiropractors and people with occupational therapy and sports medicine, that they go that route, right? A lot of the jocks end up going that route because they think that
Mm-hmm.
because they played sports that they have some understanding. It's ridiculous, but anyways, another topic for a different podcast. A bunch of those people go into finance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably like the smallest number actually is going into finance, actually going into like the risky gambling part. So you have to be very what would be the opposite of risk averse? Stupid. In order to go along that route, right?
Oh
You have to be
god.
one of those people whose prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, and never will, and that likes to jump out of planes and stuff, which is why finance bros are a thing, right? and
Mm-hmm.
then and then you have a bunch of people who make a very like rational sound decision, or at least in the late 90s and the early 2000s, this is what it felt like would be a rational and sound decision, is to go into business, to go
Mm-hmm.
get your MBA, and then you can go and you can work in many of the fine office buildings that I sit empty currently because late stage capitalism. So I I everybody went and got these MBAs. They all got the same education, and that education tells you things like, when times are tough, lay off your staff,
Yep.
right? And that's why we are seeing mass layoffs at record numbers like we've
Yep.
never seen before.
Yep.
And it says, like, I the shareholder is king, and I as long as you make that number go up, infinite growth, blah blah blah, all of that stuff. And we've completely lost what you're talking about, to bring it back to Milton Hershey and that
Mm-hmm.
ideology, which is, Hershey made a good product.
Yep.
That product was popular.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than be a absolute dick about it, he had a
Yep.
moral compass and used that wealth to better the community that he was from, that
Mm-hmm.
that served him, right? Understanding that if I serve that community, then they will come and they will work in my factory, and the chocolate will be even better,
Yep.
and people will love it even more, and will be
Mm-hmm.
bigger and better than we've ever been. And so it is somewhat self-serving, but it's also not, right? Like it
Yeah.
like it and that we have completely lost that ideology as a society, that
Mm-hmm.
like the reason why we do this stuff is not to make money. You make a product to improve somebody's life, but that's
Yeah.
not but that's not what we make products for anymore.
No, well,
we
the
we
money
ran out of all
happens.
of
Yeah.
that stuff, and the monopolies own all of those things.
Right.
So now it's just, can we convince people to buy things that they don't need?
Right,
right?
exactly. Okay, so here's the question for you. Have you ever read Disney War? It was James B. Stewart wrote it about basically about Michael Eisner's tenure at Disney.
No, no.
Okay,
Yeah,
I do actually recommend it. I'd probably look for an audiobook if you can find it just because
yeah, yeah.
it's pretty hefty.
Yeah.
But it's excellent. I do and I recommend it to everyone. It's really really good. But like the gist of that is basically prior to Eisner, I believe Roy O was in charge of Disney,
Yeah.
or no, maybe it was it Diane Disney's husband? I don't remember. It was somebody in the Disney family was in charge of Disney, and they were passionate about uh, you know Walt's legacy and everything, but things were not going well. You know, it was the 80s. It was, like it was a really rough time in general, I think, in the market. And so eventually Eisner came on board, and then there was this big, like renaissance, right? Disney Renaissance or
Mhm.
whatever. But the thing is that from the beginning, Eisner came from exactly what you're talking about, a business background. He had no prior experience with storytelling basically, or media. It was sort of all new to him, and it was this idea that a business degree is a one size fits all, and you can always apply the lessons of business to any business no matter what it is and no matter what the
Yeah.
product is. And so he wasn't interested in art, and so there were a lot of clashes, certainly between him and Royo, and between a number of the other like artists and directors that he worked with or funded over the years. And so this became a real power struggle within Disney between the sort of Eisners, who were the MBAs who only care about line go up, and then the artists who were like, no, this is Disney. We make art, we tell stories, and that's what we want to do. And so it was real. And I think that what you're saying and what we're seeing now, certainly in Star Wars, now that Disney owns it, um, is the fact that this MBA view has really won out.
Yeah.
Because every time any of these artistic voices have come out and tried to tell a new story, they have been slapped down. And we're seeing the result of that at Celebration, which is to say, it doesn't look like they have a lot of stories to tell right now.
Yeah. I mean, and that is exactly it, right? I Anybody who's been listening to me podcast over the last 17 years knows that, like, I've been a supporter of the Disney stuff and of this era of Lucasfilm, up until very recently. And that is because, like, I did feel that there was a lot of really great stuff being made. I mean, Star Wars Rebels remains my favorite piece of Star Wars media, and that only exists because of the Disney purchase,
Mhm.
right? So I was like very much in support of it in the early days, and then even through, till 2020. But in the last couple of years, it becomes harder and harder to support the idea that Star Wars is better under Disney than um I don't know what the alternative would have been, right? But um I I now find myself in a position in 2025 going, like, I really wish that they had found a way to remain independent. That somehow, George, figured out a way to, like, step down, but, like, leave it as some sort of you know self-governing body, instead of selling it off to this corporation that has really, like, in the last few years. And it's not just with Star Wars, because they're also doing it with Marvel.
Yeah. Oh, it's
And
happened to all their properties for
yeah,
sure.
they're
Like,
doing
yeah.
they're doing it with everything, right? Like so much of it has just become, like, so creatively bankrupt,
Yep.
um as they have just reacted to uh it's not even Disney that they're reacting to, right? That what they are reacting to is late stage capitalism.
Yeah.
And rather than trying to figure out a way to survive the transition that society is about to go through over the next couple of decades, they are clinging to that old way, just like so many people are. I mean, like, that is what we're experiencing right now is is a response to socialism and leftist politics winning for the last while, right?
Mhm.
Progressive ideologies winning out over regressive or conservative ideologies. And this is the thing, is that like what the right wing has become is not conservative. I actually have a lot of respect for the need for conservative ideology in the balance, like the checks and balances of democratic government, right? Like it, like
Yep.
you need to have some people going like, hold up, let's talk about this, right?
Mhm.
We can't just spend money, we can't just blah blah blah. You need to have those checks and balances. It's why the systems were set up the way that they were. It's what people like the founding fathers were thinking about when they did that, right? And it's
Mhm.
what, like, why parliament in Canada is set up the way that it is. And that's very much like the same as the UK and the same as, you know,
Yeah.
the colonies and whatever, right? Like we're supposed to have that, but this regressive ideology is a direct response to progressive ideology winning out. You know,
Mhm.
gay rights, all the LGBTQIA stuff, like I like race stuff, all of this, like honestly, like the the match that lit the fuse that we're now experiencing the explosion of, it was Obama being elected, right? Like
Right.
that's sort of what it is, right? And like Disney got to ride that progressive wave through
Mhm.
the 90s and the early 2000s, and Iger was really great at capitalizing on that.
But they did it
He
in a really low commitment way. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like, they rode the wave, but they
Oh, for sure.
never were really at the front of it, and they never,
Yep.
like, how many times, for instance, did they first gay character, like, how many times did they do that, you know?
Yep.
Like, so
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
yeah,
But
even in
but it,
Star Wars.
yeah, but it worked for them for a long time, right?
Yeah,
And that
it worked, right.
and now the conversation has shifted, and it has shifted to the degree that like all of these things that they acquired in that expansion period, right? In that like really great moment for them. I say great not
Mhm.
in terms of like morally great or like objectively great, but for them, for Disney, it was like this really really a positive era of expansion and growth. And they acquired uh, Marvel, and they acquired Lucasfilm, and they acquired 20th Century Fox at the end of it,
Right.
and all of that stuff, right? And um, they get their hands on all of these properties and all of these things that are like inherently. Now, superhero stuff, we can go back and forth. There's a lot of fascism in superhero storytelling. There's also a lot of leftist stuff in there.
Yeah,
Um
absolutely. I mean, like,
and
yeah,
yeah, there's a nuanced conversation. That's a different podcast. But Star
sure.
Wars is absolutely leftist propaganda. It has
Yep.
been since 1977,
Yep.
right? Like George baked that shit into the story. The good guys are not the Americans. The good guys,
Mhm.
he has talked about this. This is not a debate.
Yeah.
This is not opinion. This is not subtext. This
Mhm.
is academic. He has said full stop, the rebels are the Viet Cong.
Yep.
He said that to
Yeah.
James Cameron, and James Cameron was like mind blown, right? Like,
Yeah,
you
right.
can watch the video, you can watch James Cameron go, I think what you were trying to say, and then George going like, no, you moron. Obviously that's what I was saying, right? In
Yeah.
George's way, right? Because George
Yeah,
George
yeah, of
George
course.
has that sort of tone of like,
He's so
well, yeah, of
sweet.
course, right?
Yeah.
And it's like,
Mhm.
but the underneath in his brain, he's going like, "How are you just realizing this? It's
Yeah,
been
I know.
because with the time that they did that interview, it's like it's been like 30 years, it's been 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course that's what I was doing. It's yes, the empire are the Americans or the
Yep.
Romans or whoever, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. The British Empire, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter. The little guy, and like he does that where he goes like, yeah, well, it's coonskin caps and whatever, revolution, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
He's like, it doesn't matter. Like it's not. It's it, the point is that the rebels, the good guys, the ones on the right side are always the ones that are not the machine. They
Yeah.
are not the empire. They are not the thing that is, like that wants conservatism and
Mhm.
regressive ideologies, because what they want to do is they want to subjugate, they want to keep things the way they are, they want to
Yeah.
maintain status quo, right? So Star Wars is leftist propaganda. It just
Mhm.
is. It always has been, and it always should be. It
Right, and
has
so now
not
Disney's
been.
really uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, it has not been for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And with the exception of Andor, right? And with the exception of elements of the Acolyte,
Yeah.
and elements of a few other things. I mean, like Bad Batch absolutely had some of that in it,
Mhm.
although like they never really got to fully explore it. Star Wars Resistance also
Mhm.
very much had that. Rise of Skywalker should have, but they watered
Yeah.
it down to such a degree that it is a wet fart of an ideology. I like it just
Yeah.
it like this is where the corporate thing has now fallen apart. Had Disney, Iger, all of them stepped back and let Kathleen Kennedy do what George asked her to do,
Mhm.
which you can go back and you can watch those videos and you can see the conversations that they had, and you can see that like obviously they talked about it,
Yeah.
obviously. And the stuff that they started making, Star Wars Rebels, Rogue
Mhm.
One,
Yep.
right? Like even Solo to a certain degree has some really like subversive stuff in the storytelling about
Mhm.
masculinity and about like the because that movie is tearing down one of the most masculine heroes in Star Wars and going like, hey, he's a soft boy underneath you guys. Now like
Mhm.
again, this is baked into the original trilogy. That series of films ends with Han Solo about as soft as they come,
Yes,
right? He's like
absolutely.
he has the moment on the bridge with in the Ewok
Yep.
village with Leia where he does his normal thing. He goes like, fine, whatever, be that
Yeah.
way. And then he
Ugh.
stops, he takes a breath, he turns around and he goes, you know what? I was frozen in carbonite. I've been through some stuff. I've
Yeah.
experienced things, and I'm sorry. Right? And
Yeah. Girl,
he
it seems
does.
like you just need a hug. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes, you know what? This isn't for me to decide. You'll tell
Yeah.
me when you're ready. It's all good. I'm here to support you. That's my role. You are
Mhm.
Princess Leia. I am Han Solo. You're the more important character.
Yep.
I
Yep.
like that.
Yeah.
And Solo goes back to like show you that that's actually how he started.
Yeah.
That was not him necessarily evolving. It was him returning to who he actually was,
Yeah. Right.
after all of the
Right.
trauma that he suffered, right? So
Mhm.
and that is like that's John Kasdan. That's who did
Yeah.
that. That's who wrote that into that movie and went like, we're gonna show you guys that Han Solo's always been a soft boy.
Yep.
I but like that early stuff has that, and then as it's gone on, you can just see how like they reacted to The Last Jedi, they
Mhm.
reacted to what happened with Solo, and they just went, we can't make movies like this anymore. And so everything has just been mired in this utter chaos. And
Mhm.
I called it out on Twitter like a year ago, and I remember posting it, and I forget sometimes because I feel like my influence is not as far reaching as it was back in, like 2010 at sort of the height of the Clone Wars series, and
Mhm.
at Frontlines being a podcast with, somewhere around 20,000 listeners
Yeah.
and and all of that. But in that time, I accrued a lot of followers, not just Star Wars fans, but also some of the creatives. I
Mhm.
forget that sometimes.
Yeah.
And I had basically I called out like what the hell's going on? Like it just, and this
Mhm.
was around the time that they were like that the news came out that Ahsoka wouldn't start shooting until like 2026.
Right. Right.
And I
Mhm.
was, or maybe 2025, maybe it shoots this summer, but because I was like, if it shoots that, like, then that means that we're not going to see season 2 of Ahsoka until like 2026 at the earliest, but probably
Yeah.
2027.
Yeah. Probably
Right.
later. Mhm.
Um, what is going on at Lucasfilm? And Joel Aaron, who is on the Lucasfilm animation team. I don't know what his official title is because it changes so often, but he's basically like the technical director, technical supervisor for all of that stuff. So he supervises the animation itself, right? Like the actual like computer part of like the CG, like the technical animation is the whole thing. I've talked about it on other podcasts, but he responded to me and was like, you know, like it was years and years between movies back in the day, and there was, you know, like a decade between, you know, trilogies and stuff like that. Like we're working on stuff just because we're not talking about it, sort of thing. Like, and he kind of like in a very nice way. Like he was awesome about it. Like, but he was very much like, well, you don't know the full story, right? And I responded back to him like, you know what, you're right. I'm reacting, and I'm reacting because it's just like we just don't. Nothing's being communicated to fans
Right.
anymore.
Right.
And I had sort of had like that moment of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have tweeted that, maybe I shouldn't have said that, right? Like maybe I'm
Mhm.
just being a bit of a mouthpiece. But then over the course of the next year or so, whenever I tweeted that, I have been proven correct on that.
Yeah.
Lucasfilm seems to be in absolute chaos.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing. They're spending resources on projects that never see the light of day.
Yep.
They are spinning their wheels on things that were once popular, like The Mandalorian, because
Yeah.
they want it to appeal to all people instead of having something to say. Like, because this is the thing with The Mandalorian is that like you can go back and you can look at those first two seasons, and you can see that yeah, they're adventure of the week. That's the structure of the show, but it was
Right.
building towards something.
Mhm.
And you know, there were a lot of theories. There's like a King Arthur thing going on here. There's like
Mhm.
there's you know, sort of like other mythic motifs and that sort of thing. It's like where what's the end goal of this with the Mandalorians in terms of the story, and blah blah blah, right? And we felt like it was really going somewhere. And even at the end of season 3, it was like, oh, okay, I feel like they kind of like course corrected back to like what this story was meant to be about.
Mhm.
I am now looking at it, and with the Mandalorian and Grogu coming out, and we'll have way more answers about this as soon as this panel happens on the Friday on April 18th, in I guess about a week. Uh,
Mhm.
we'll know a lot more about the direction that this story is taking. Uh, I think that was the wrap up. I think season 3 was
Yeah.
them being like, we're done, we finished it.
Well, and
They're back
okay.
on Mandalore, and we're not going to hear anything about it for
Yeah.
20 or 30 years until
Which
somebody else picks it up and tells another story.
I know. And here's the thing that drives me crazy about that. So like, I mean, just to level set, for your
Mhm.
audience, I'm not the biggest Mando fan. I kind of dropped off after season 1, to be completely honest. I know what
Yep.
happened after then. I've seen bits and pieces, but it just isn't for me. It doesn't interest me. But part of my issue and what I think has hurt them ultimately with that show and with where it appears they're going for the ultimate conclusion is I feel like the premise for the show was stoic badass. And initially, I thought that worked well for them, specifically because they undermined it from the first episode with the introduction of Grogu. That
Yep.
immediately took everyone's expectations for stoic badass and turned it on its head and said, actually, he's a soft daddy. That was really cool and really fun, but then the problem was, to your point, later on, the farther they got into the story, they were afraid to move away from either stoic badass or soft daddy. And they were stuck in this very tight box of like he has to be these two things and he and his story cannot go anywhere else. And that's all they have. And I just like I don't know where they're gonna go with that or what to do with
Yeah.
that, and it's
Yeah. I
just
mean,
really
I think
frustrating.
Book of Boba Fett really, like, it really set that whole trajectory like
Hmm.
into a tailspin.
Yeah, absolutely.
The way that people reacted to Book of Boba Fett. I
Mhm.
actually, it's so funny to me because the further away we get from Book of Boba Fett, I have a lot of problems with the way that they did that first season. I think that what the story that they told was 2 seasons of TV,
Mhm.
and what they did with the Tuscans at in the first 3 episodes, really
Yeah.
first 4 episodes, was a story that should have been an entire season of television, right?
Mhm.
Like, and
Mhm.
they compressed it into 3 episodes because they were worried that people wouldn't sit around for, a full 8 episodes of
Well,
Dances
they
with
didn't
Wolves
commit to
Boba
their
Fett.
story, just like they never
Yeah,
commit to their
yeah.
stories. It's
They
like
wanted they
they
wanted
chicken
to
out
get
before they
yeah
can actually tell the story.
they wanted to get to the Rancor destroying the city
Yep.
and Chrysanthemum and all that. And I love all of that
Mhm.
stuff too. And I love the flop back and forth of it.
Mhm.
Of the like but the further away I get from Book of Boba Fett, the more I look at that show and I go like, that show had more to say than Mandalorian has in
Yeah.
3 seasons.
Yeah.
In those 3 episodes, Book of Boba Fett has more to
Mhm.
say than Mando has in 3 seasons, right?
Yeah.
And I look at Book of Boba Fett and I go like, that actually might be one of the best shows that they've done. And it doesn't get seen that way because people had a preconceived notion about who Boba Fett was. They don't
Mhm.
like that they turned him into this character. I get that. I understand. It's why it resonates for me because
Mhm.
I didn't like the character that Boba Fett was before. I really like what they transformed that character into. I like the evolution of him going from a very boring, one note, kind of bad guy, kind of anti hero, but not really anything, into this weird, dark underworld hero.
Mhm.
Like this odd heroic figure that is also like, but he's not a good guy, right? Like this is still, he's a criminal underboss, but he's
Yep.
like, but he's doing it for the right reasons, like with a heart of gold. And it's like, oh, he's like, this is like the Sopranos but Star Wars, right? And it's like, that's
Mhm.
what they set up, and we're never going to get the conclusion of that story. Well, we will one day. Whenever I say we're never going to, I mean that like the people who started telling the story aren't going to be the ones to finish it, because the thing about Star Wars is that like it's too big to fail. So you just be patient, and
Mhm.
eventually they come back to it. They come back to all this stuff, right? Eventually somebody who was 12 when they watched it grows up to be 30 and then goes like, that's the story that I want to finish. And then they do a comic book and you're like, that was actually a really good comic book. It's a shame no one reads the comic books. I Or that was a great novel. I really wish more people cared about this stuff. um but yeah, like like they're not going to finish it the way that they started it, and that
Yeah.
is really upsetting. I mean, Tamura Morrison has said recently that he's basically done, like he's
Yeah.
done with Star Wars. And I think like that is not a thing of like, I don't think it's that Star Wars is done with him. I think that his experience on that show was so negative, and
Yeah.
Lucasfilm did such a poor job of setting expectations for what the show was going to be in the first place, because again, they want to
Yeah.
sell everything to everybody, so they don't bother to set proper expectations. And then it actually worked out really well for them with Skeleton Crew, but that's a fluke. It's
Yeah.
the exception that proves the rule.
Mhm.
um I so like not setting those expectations, not sticking to their guns, not listening to their creatives, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that like Tamura Morrison is like, I don't want to waste my time. I'm not
Yeah.
going to waste my time with this because you guys are just going to pull the rug out. And like they
Yeah.
did, and Lucasfilm doesn't defend their product
Yeah, and they've
anymore.
done this so many times, and so he's not the only one that is
Yeah,
done with them.
yeah,
Like, a
yeah,
lot part of the reason that they have so few options as far as, like, what to do with some of these stories is because they've burned their creatives so badly that people won't work with them. Like, for example, like, the cancellation of Acolyte really sucks, but guess what another consequence of that is? A lot of the people involved in that project will not work with them again
yeah,
because of that. And like, John Boyega has been very clear about his feelings about how he
yeah,
was treated. Obviously, Oscar pulling out sends a pretty clear message. I could go on,
yeah,
but the point
yeah,
is that like there are a lot of people that are, and then there are also creatives who had a really great experience on working on the project, but the fandom was so cruel and horrible to them that they're
Right.
just like, it's not worth it dealing with these fans.
It,
And
it,
keep in mind,
yeah.
those are the fans that Disney has emboldened with their behavior. So they have,
Yeah.
again, they've backed themselves into this corner where they have so few options because they
And
never
and
committed to anything.
and those fans represent such a small
There's so few of them, but
percentage.
they're so loud.
It's not even it's not even them that are loud, right?
Mhm.
Because this is what I have experienced. I left Twitter, you left Twitter, right? Like
Yep.
we left that ecosystem. I left that ecosystem within days. I forgot who Star Wars Theory even was.
Yep. Yep.
Because it's not him. Here's the thing. Geographically, I can drive to his house. I know where he lives. He is in the same city as me. Like
Yeah.
not same city. I'm not in the same city, but like in the same metro,
Yeah,
like the same
generally. Yeah.
metropolitan area as me,
Mhm.
right? Like like I'm not kidding. I know where he lives. Like I
Yep.
know his neighborhood. I know people who know his family. Like
Yeah.
I and none of it is good news, by the way. I and yet I left Twitter, forgot the guy even existed.
Yeah.
Forgot he even existed.
Yep.
I stopped engaging with anything on TikTok like long
Yep.
before that. That anytime his stuff would come up, like not even just him, but like people like reacting to his stuff, I would just
Yeah.
like swipe past it, right?
Yep.
It's not them, it's these devices and these platforms
Yep.
that these algorithms amplify the voices of these people to such a degree that when they cry, because that's what they
Mhm.
do,
Yep.
when they are being big old whiny babies,
Yep.
it changes the course of the stock price.
Yep. Yep.
And somehow we have allowed this as a society to happen, that like
Yeah.
that the stock market is affected by Twitter and
Yep.
TikTok and
Yep.
Facebook.
Yeah.
It is like, to me, that is the most absurd thing about all of this. That
Mhm.
is, it is the failure of the last 20 years of like not correctly estimating the impact that social media was going to have on our society
Yep.
and not regulating the fuck out of it early on,
Yep.
because
Yep.
there's no regulation whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it just it's been the Wild West for 2 decades,
Yep.
and they're just leaving it alone, and to the degree that like these people have made all this money and now they're the ones who are determining the policy, and what they're doing is they're actually
Well,
deregulating what is regulated,
and
right?
like they were doing things that, to your point, like weren't illegal because they weren't regulated, but now they've been so emboldened they are actually doing nakedly illegal things
Yeah.
out in plain view, and there are
Yeah.
no consequences for them.
Yeah.
So like this is the point, is that Disney and Lucasfilm allowed themselves to be manipulated
Yeah.
by this social media ecosystem, and now Star Wars as a vehicle for this, to your point, leftist or anti-fascist storytelling is really suffering. And so I think that what's interesting to me about Celebration specifically, and keep in mind, I think everyone who's going, I hope you have a great time. I hope you
Yeah.
love it. I think that there's so many fun things to enjoy. I also like, I've never been, but probably the biggest thing for me is I love cosplayers. I love cosplayers who go all out. I love cosplayers who are creative and do like their own spin or their own twist on something. I love that. So I am super excited to see all the cosplay. That's one of my big things that I love. So, and point being, I hope everyone enjoys themselves. And I always
Yeah.
think any convention where a lot of people who love something get together is so much fun. But in terms of, to your point, it being a PR vehicle for Lucasfilm, I think that we're probably right on the money. I don't think there will be any big announcement. In fact, to some extent, I almost wonder if, aside from not having anything to announce, I wonder if they don't want to announce anything because there's so much big news nowadays. Nothing is going to break through the noise. Like
Yeah.
this is not the moment where a big Star Wars announcement would make a splash.
Yeah.
Like, it just
Yeah.
wouldn't. There's too much
Oh,
big, enormous stuff going on in the world.
listen, tickets for Thunderbolts went on sale this week, right?
Yeah.
Because that movie is less than a month away.
Oh, see, I didn't
And
even know.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And that's it. Marvel movies used to be the cultural moment. We
Yeah, they
get
were the
2 or 3
prime
of them a
examples
year.
of tent poles. They were such a
Yeah,
big deal. Like, I remember it being a huge, huge deal. And like, one of my favorite experiences was going to the theater to the earliest showing that I could possibly get a ticket for, and then being there with all the people screaming bloody murder. It was so fun. It was like some of my
right? Yeah,
favorite theater memories are going to Marvel movies and everyone losing their minds. It was amazing. And that doesn't happen anymore. I haven't seen the last few movies or TV shows just because I've been just too busy with other things and it just doesn't occur to me. So, like Brave
yeah.
New World came out and I was like, oh, I should probably see that. And I didn't.
You're fine.
Like,
You're fine. You're
okay,
fine.
good.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. You can read a wiki. It doesn't matter. You don't need to watch it. You
That's
don't
so
need to.
sad though.
It's
But
just going
that's
to
so
make you upset
sad
actually.
because
But
what a fall. It's only been a few years and
right?
it's
But here,
just,
okay.
yeah.
Counter Daredevil Born Again is incredible. It's so good. It's
Hmm.
so good. It is such a breath of fresh air in the current sort of everything. But especially like with the Marvel movies, with Star Wars, with all of that, and
Yeah.
with a lot of it being as disappointing as it is. I like Skeleton Crew was also awesome. Skeleton Crew
Hmm.
was so good. But the thing about Skeleton Crew being so good is that it's like, so where's the season 2 announcement? Where's the anything from the success of that show? People forgot that it exists. It's
Yeah.
already done. It's already gone.
And the
It's
problem with
already
that,
evaporated.
and the
Like,
problem with that is that, again, this goes back to their failure to commit. It's the lack of commitment. Like, if Disney
yeah,
could commit to telling a story come hell or high water because they thought there was value in the story, we wouldn't be here. And part of the problem you have with something like Skeleton Crew is that's such a young cast that you have to have that whole story planned out and, have your filming schedule ready to go because those kids will age so quickly. So you have to know what you're doing with them. You can't sit around and go, we'll see. Because you know what happens then? Then you get a Stranger Things situation where they're all like 30-year-olds playing 15-year-olds, and like no one buys that.
yeah,
So, like, you have to be ready to continue that story if that's what you're going to do. And so the fact that it looks like what they were doing was sitting around and waiting to see if they had a smash hit on their hands, and as it is, they had a modest hit, but it was not a smash hit.
yeah,
Yeah, to your point, it looks like they're doing what they always do, which is kind of just go radio silent, because at this point I think they're embarrassed that they've canceled so many things, and so they don't want to say they're canceling anything, so they just kind of like don't mention it again.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It is just a matter of like, just like, let's just let everybody forget that this existed.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly, exactly. So
which sucks because it was so good. It was
it was
so good. Those
fun. It
kids were
was fun.
so talented, so amazing.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
and mhm.
I really want to be positive about Star Wars. I want to be a person who is a cheerleader and who is excited, and we were just talking before we started the episode. We were talking about Perfect 10 and how my whole
Mhm.
purpose with that podcast is to just be a thing where all we do is talk about things we love, things that bring
Mhm.
us joy. Um, but but it is at the point now where I can't sit here and deny that the bad faith actors won. They won. They got what they wanted, right? I mean, like, they didn't get
Yep.
what they wanted because what they want is Star Wars to be the thing that they think Star Wars is, which is something that it has never
Right.
been, right? But their goal of demolishing the Star Wars that was,
Mhm.
they achieved it. They did it.
Yeah.
Now I don't think that they killed it.
No.
I think that they've torn down what Disney was building up over the last 10 years. But it 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 leaves us in a situation as fans of that type of Star Wars storytelling, that like I'm very dejected at the moment. Like
Yeah.
I'm very, it's hard to be positive about it. It's hard to look at it and go like, this is there's good stuff coming.
Yeah.
um
Well, I am so, so, so extremely excited for Andor. But to be honest,
mhm.
I view that as sort of like the end of Star Wars in my mind. And I know that's not true, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that kind of tongue in cheek. But the point being, I can tell how like I'm super excited for it. And then there's nothing past that where I'm like, oh, that'll be fun. Instead, I'm just kind of like, maybe one day something will happen with Star Wars, but I'm not expecting anything. Like,
Yeah.
I might read some of the books, but that's probably
it
about it.
I think my biggest thing is that, like, I've been through this now. I came into Star Wars in one of these periods where there was nothing, right? Like
Mhm.
actually right at the beginning of because it comes in waves, right? And so
Sure.
it's like I came into Star Wars as a fan at the beginning of the swell that became the prequels, right? Like
Mhm.
that became that wave. And that starts with the THX VHS, right? The
Right.
remastered versions, and then Shadows of the Empire, and then the special editions, and then the
Mhm.
prequels, right? And it crests with the prequels, and then it died for a minute. Now,
Mhm.
thankfully, the next wave came real fast, but it was a small wave, and there were only so many of us still out there surfing.
Mhm.
So, Clone Wars hits in 2008, and it was awesome. It was awesome because everybody had gone home.
Mhm.
Everybody was like, that last wave was really disappointing. We're not
Mhm.
interested in surfing anymore. And so there was, the few of us that were still like, it doesn't matter. It's still a beautiful sunny day. Let's stay.
Yep. Yeah.
And we got to ride that Clone Wars wave in peace without the beach being overly crowded.
Mhm.
And then Disney bought Star Wars, and everybody showed up. Like all of a sudden now everybody loves the Clone Wars. Everybody, go, listen. Don't go back and listen to the Clone. Actually, you can go back and listen to season 1 because I'm the only one who's on season 1.
Yeah.
But I don't go back and listen to season 2 forward. But go back and listen to season 1, and listen to me talk about how much I'm like, I can't believe no one's watching this show. I can't
Yeah.
believe no one's talking about this. This is some of the best Star Wars we've ever gotten. I mean, Trespass
Mhm.
remains one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars media. That it's like the 7th or 8th episode of the series.
Mhm.
Like Trespass is just a beautiful 22 minutes of TV in the Star Wars galaxy. Anakin using pictographs to communicate with an alien race, and like all of the politics, and they're
Mhm.
diplomatic Jedi, and it's about not fighting, and it's just like, it's great Star Wars, right?
Mhm.
And I can remember just watching that episode and being like, why is no one watching this show? This is not a kids show. These are not concepts for children. This is Star Wars. This is real Star Wars. um and then everybody, now retroactively says that they were all always fans of the Clone Wars, and I'm like, no, you weren't there. You weren't there. I know, because I was there, and I was like, it was like me and like 12 people. And like, I know them all by name. A lot of them are on this podcast network now, like.
But think about what
um
that implies though in the pre-Disney era. That
yeah.
show took a really long time to build an
Yep.
audience.
Yep.
But they
Exactly.
kept making them. They kept making them
Yep.
because
Yep.
they were committed to telling that
Well, because
story.
it was George, right?
Cuz it
And
was
it was
George.
like George had stories that he wanted to tell. He looked at the
Yep.
prequels and went, you know what? I think I can fix this.
Mhm.
I think I can, like, and I don't think that George looked at it and went like, my movies are bad, and I need to do things in order to make my movies less bad. I
No,
think
it
what
was more
George
he
did,
acknowledged part of the story was missing.
he looked at it and he went like, oh, all that stuff that's in my head, people don't know it.
Yeah,
People don't know it.
exactly. People don't
People
realize that happened.
I'm sorry. I thought that everybody was reading between the lines because I put all this subtext in these films, but like, I guess I have to be a little bit more explicit. Allow me to do 7 seasons of television.
Yeah.
And so he then, with that team, wrote 7 seasons of television, and
Mhm.
we got about 6 of them. I
Yep.
I but um yeah, like, that's why that exists, and it exists, and it's so good because it is George, and like, it's all over the place too, by the way.
Mhm.
Clone Wars is all over the place. There's some real stinker episodes of that
Oh
show,
yeah.
but sometimes you got to make stinker episodes to get to the good stuff. Like, you just
Mhm.
like, that's the process of creating art. You don't you don't nail it every single time you sit down to do it.
Yeah,
Sometimes
and to be
it's
clear,
garbage, you
yeah, to
know?
be clear, like,
It's
I don't
fine.
need every single Star Wars thing to be amazing. I don't need
No.
all of it to be for me. I'm pretty
Yeah.
pretty accepting of the fact that there's enough Star Wars to go around, and there are things that are, like, really appealing to other people that don't appeal to me and vice versa, and that's totally okay. So I'm not I guess what I'm saying is, like, when I look at the lineup, both in terms of overall programming and also, specifically for celebration. And I go, I don't need all of this to be for me. But
Yeah.
what I'm starting to get at is I'm not sure that what they have lined up is really for anyone at this point.
Exactly. Exactly. That's
So,
you were like saying that, and in my head, like that was gonna be the way that I like responded to you. Is like that's the
yeah.
thing, is that they are currently making Star Wars for no one.
Yes.
And
Yes.
even the good stuff,
Yeah.
even Star Wars Visions, which is going to have a lot of really cool stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to. It is going to be milk toast, non-committal,
Yep.
middle of the road lightsabers, spaceships, Jedi.
Or they're
It's
just going to
like
be riding on the fact that they don't think a large enough audience will watch it. Rightfully
yeah.
so. It has very niche appeal.
It
So like
the
some of the bolder things that we've seen in the other Vision seasons, I mean, they're
yeah.
great, but these things are what, maximum 9 minutes long,
Yeah.
and like only the really really obsessed fans watch them. So
It,
they don't worry about the exposure these things are going to get.
yeah. The great thing about anime, the great thing
Mhm.
about anime, and this is as like a lifelong anime fan, and I really mean that. Like I've been into anime since I was like 7. So
Mhm.
I when Sailor Moon first started airing on YTV up here in Canada.
Yep.
Um the thing about anime is that it is so much style over substance. That is not to say that the substance isn't there. It usually actually is. Like there's usually actually like really deep substance, but the style overshadows it to such a degree that it is pleasing to a very large number of people. Like that's the thing about anime. Dragon Ball Z
Mhm.
has massive appeal because Akira Toriyama was a great graphic designer. He was a
Mhm.
great visual storyteller. He knew how to lay out a panel, he knew how to design a character. Hey, check it out. These guys, their hair turns gold and
Yep.
they burst into blue flame, and then they zoom around and they're moving so fast.
Mhm.
Guys, they're moving so fast I can't even animate it. That's how fast they're going, right? It's so like that, and that is the style that overshadows, because that's what people think of when they think of Dragon Ball Z. They think of this bombastic fighting, and
Mhm.
they don't, and nobody talks about, no, I shouldn't say nobody, like 5 of us on the internet scream at the top of our lungs, the entirety of Dragon Ball is a takedown of toxic masculinity. That's
Yep.
the whole point. That's
Yep.
everything that Akira Toriyama was ever talking about, was that toxic masculinity will kill us. The
Mhm.
patriarchy sucks. Be kind. That's what
Yep.
Dragon Ball Z is about.
Yeah.
That's what Dragon Ball is about. And people don't know that because anime is just cool looking.
Yep.
And that's Star Wars Visions is going to come out, and there are going to be some stories in there like there are in the first volume, like there are in the second volume, but especially the first volume
Mhm.
because it is all anime, and this one's going to be all anime. Like the Ninth Jedi is one of the best Star
Yep.
Wars stories that they have put out in the Disney era,
Yep.
and no one talks about it because no
Yeah.
one gets what it's about.
It's so good.
Nobody understands it. They just talk about Ronin because it's visually arresting, right? Because it's all
Mhm.
black and white with red lightsabers. So they talk
Mhm.
about Ronin, and they talk about the trigger. I can't remember the one with the twins,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because because it's visually arresting. It grabs you by the throat and says, look how cool Star Wars is. And I
Mhm.
love that. That is also a thing about Star Wars that I celebrate, and it's one of the reasons why I'm here, right?
Mhm.
But those quieter ones that I actually think are the best ones, nobody
Mhm.
cares. Nobody
Yeah.
cares about those,
No,
right? I
exactly.
can't.
Exactly.
I can't remember which one, but there's the one about the Jedi and his Padawan and like the Sith, and it's I oh what's the actor's name? I can't believe I just forgot it. He's Lo Pan in Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, yes, I know. I can't think of his name either, but yes, I know.
Right? Everybody knows who
Hmm.
I'm talking about, and I can't think of his name right now. It's just
Hmm.
fallen out of my head. That's just
Yeah.
because I'm almost 40. It's not because I don't respect him as an actor. I'm just an idiot. This is my failure, not his. He's one of the most like celebrated actors in Hollywood of the like over decades. An
Hmm.
amazing career. That one is such a like that is one of my favorites from Volume 1, because of the story of it, and because of like the back and forth and the dialogue and the
Hmm.
nuance of it, and like no, but nobody ever talks about that one.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's like that's what, when I say like I agree with you, like they're making Star Wars for no one. That's what I'm talking about, is that like
Yeah.
they've they like it's there. They made something. They made something that I am connected to. The Ninth Jedi is literally one of my favorite things that Disney has produced.
Hmm.
And uh, I spent months after that came out, like just on the internet saying to people like, why are they not just making a film? Why is this? The director wants to make it. They want to tell the story. And I just like it just drives me nuts. It, it's
Yep.
so crazy.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at right now, is that like the fans are like, hey, can you make us this Star Wars thing? And they go, yeah, well, but those other guys over there, they cry every time we do something.
I know,
And
exactly.
there's a girl in that one, so we're not going to do it. Also,
I
it's made by
know.
Asian people, so like that's DEI, so we're not going to do that. So like,
Hmm.
like I don't know.
I
I don't know.
know.
I just really don't know what they're doing. I would like to know. I was really hopeful that Star Wars Celebration was going to be the point where they were going to go, hey guys, sorry we've been so quiet. We've been diligently working on all of
Yeah.
this stuff. Here's some cool things to show you. And now I look at this panel lineup, and what I see from this is we are terrified. We don't know what to do next. We
Yeah.
have
They're just, we got
absolutely no
nothing, you
direction.
know? that's
Yeah.
that's where they are right now.
Everybody
They
said,
got
Dave
nothing.
Filoni, come save us, come save us, come save us. And then they put him in charge, and he went, uh,
He's like,
Star Wars Rebels, I guess. And
yeah.
we all went, yeah. And he went, oh, okay, I'll get to it. And it's
Yeah.
like, all right, okay,
Yeah.
thanks, Dave. Thanks.
Yeah,
I
just
guess
like
we'll
he's
just
like,
wait.
I know what y'all need. It's more clones and more Ahsoka. And I'm just like, I mean, sure,
Yeah.
Dave, but like
Here's Thrawn.
there's gotta
Thrawn,
be
Thrawn,
other
Thrawn,
there's
Thrawn,
gotta
Thrawn.
be other stuff, Dave, besides
Yeah.
just that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, oh
Anyways,
well.
yeah, this is now the point where we wrap it up.
Okay.
This
All
is
right.
this
Fair
is it.
enough. I
That's
I
it.
just listen, like I think there's a cathartic element
Yeah.
to this negativity. I mean, like this is how your audience knows that there's an authenticity behind your love,
Yeah.
because you also have
Yeah.
moments of what is this crap?
Yeah.
So
It's like I, I can still go back and watch old Star Wars, which is the
yeah,
thing that I say to people
absolutely.
all the
We
time.
can
It's like, you
always
don't
go
like
enjoy
what,
those.
yeah, you don't like
Mhm.
what they're making right now. Like you love the stuff that they made. Like go watch Star Wars
Absolutely.
Rebels.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and like that is actually kind of what I'm planning on. Is
Awesome.
to just go back. And I'm figuring that out. So,
Rebels is
if
so good. Rebels is definitely one of
yeah,
my favorite Star Wars. I
yeah.
I rewatched it recently, and it is just a sheer delight. It is so fun.
I think post Andor season 2 is
Yeah.
going to be exactly the right time to go
Yep.
back to Star Wars Rebels and to
Mhm.
say like, okay, let's look at that, because that's as dark as it can get. Let's go back
Yep.
to hope. Let's
Yeah,
go
yeah,
back to
yeah.
hope for a minute, and let's go back to the light, and let's go back to like what is this, because to me Star Wars Rebels encompasses so much of what Star Wars is about and what it
Mhm.
really means. So yeah, like I that's it's absolutely time for a full in-depth revisit of that.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, I don't know, I'm
Yep.
working on some stuff in the background, guys, don't worry about it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it'll be what it's gonna be, and I don't know when, but it's coming, don't worry.
Mhm.
But that's it for this episode of Forced Perspectives. I don't think we'll be back until May. I think I'm gonna just go ahead and say that right now. I don't know if I really, really vibe with the first 3 episodes of Andor. Maybe I'll jump on here and I'll find somebody to do that with. But Joe is obviously off on his globetrotting tour of Japan, and won't be back until May. So I that is probably where things sort of sit. But Thunderquack's got a lot of great stuff in the meantime. We've got another episode of Perfect 10 that I'll be recording really soon and that we're going to be putting out. That one's going to be Back to the Future with Cheryl. And if you go back and you listen to our episode about Indiana Jones, like we're just gonna nerd out. Like there's not really a lot of like in-depth analysis that Cheryl and I do when we get together. It is just mostly us going like, don't you think it's really cool when this thing happens? And then like, I think that Harrison Ford's really pretty, and we're gonna do the same thing with Back to the Future. So look forward to that on Perfect 10. Yeah, and we'll have episodes of Off the Record and stuff for Patreon supporters. But we'll take a little bit of a break, come back. The thing is that by the time that Joe gets back, I think that almost all of Andor will be done. It's only 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah,
What
I
is it?
know, right? It's gonna be so quick.
4 weeks.
4 weeks.
It's crazy how quick they're gonna just blow through that content.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna all forget that Andor existed. But
but if you need to scratch that itch in real time, and if you don't mind a little cross promotion, Marie Claire and I will be covering Andor consistently over on What the Force on Andor Unclassified. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, listen,
episode by episode.
This podcast most of the time is just a 2-hour advertisement for What the Force, where at the end I go, you know what? If you want to hear somebody actually, everything that I'm saying is just stuff that I just learned from listening to Marie Claire and Missy and Ty. So just go listen to them. I so often I say it's one of my common refrains on this podcast when Joe and I are like just being a couple of dumb guys. I'm just like, the only reason I ever sound smart is because I'm referencing people smarter than me. So so everybody go listen to What the Force, because it's the best Star Wars podcast on the internet. Like, it's not even a contest, guys. It's not even a contest. Go listen. And by the way, the episodes that you and MC have been doing recently, I know like the most recent one was sort of like the prelude to Andor season 2, but the 2 that you did just before that are 2 of the best episodes that you guys have ever done, talking about like American monomyth and that stuff. Like they are so good. Anybody who's a Star Wars fan owes it to themselves to go and listen to that stuff, because you guys are just, when you guys hit on the fact that Palpatine is the American monomyth, like that he is like the American monomyth personified, it's like, holy crap. And it's like, and how much it relates to where we are right now with politics and society and all the, I just like, it's good stuff, guys. Go listen to it. Please go listen to it. Awesome. That's it for this episode. Missy, if people want to keep up with you, obviously you just said they can go check out What the Force, but is there anywhere else that they can find you on the internet?
Best place to look for me is always Tumblr, where I am All Girls Are Princesses.
Awesome. Go do that. And then you can find me on the internet. You guys know where I am. You know how to find me. Arc Wolf, Archangel Wolf, this podcast, Force POV, all that stuff. Thunderquack. I'm inescapable, I think.
But you're like, I am Legion. So yeah.
I've been called prolific, and I was like, I don't think that that's true. And then it was Curtis that did that, and he was like, well, this is the definition of prolific. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that does kind of describe the way that I behave.
Yep.
I kind of force my prolificness on the internet. But awesome. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. And we'll be back soon to talk about, the next episode will probably be like a post celebration. What happened? What did they talk about, and was anything announced? I don't know. Here's hoping that there's a surprise and that they just haven't told us, and something really cool is going to happen and get announced, and then I'm going to be back sooner rather than later to talk about that. But
yeah, maybe we'll have egg on our face. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I would love nothing more than to be wrong right now. I would love nothing more than to be absolutely proven wrong. That's it. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you on the next episode. Follow Force Perspectives on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ForcePOV. And join us on Discord at thunderquack.com/Discord. Support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/thunderquack to get early access to episodes, leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast service, or buy merch at store.thunderquack.com. Force Perspectives is a part of the Thunderquack Podcast Network.